and it hits me, oh my gosh, this is that triangle.
You know, there's explanation for everything that occurred in the Rendlesham Forest incident that doesn't involve aliens at all.
It was completely silent. It comes right over our heads.
He saw a classic flying saucer really standing in the clearing.
He turned over to my father and held his hand, and he looked in his eyes and he said, "We're not alone."
Welcome to Podcast UFO for our live show. During the show, feel free to participate live in our chat room. And don't forget to like us on our very active Facebook page.
Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Martin Willis, your host, and we have a great show for you today. Alejandro couldn't make it. It's just myself and my guest, Chase Kloetzke. Always enjoy talking to her. She's a lot of fun, and I feel she's a friend. And we are going to be talking about, this is our Happy New Year show. We're going to be talking a little bit about what is going on during this year and then the future ahead. And also, just to let the listeners know, I'll be joining Lee Spiegel and Alejandro Rojas. We do a yearly year in review. That'll be coming up on Open Minds, not this coming week, but the week after, I believe. So that's always a lot of fun. So you can check that out on openminds.tv. Anyway, I do want to appreciate, as this is a New Year show, I do want to appreciate everyone that helps out with the show. It really means a lot. I couldn't do it without you. And with that, I am going to introduce my guest. Welcome to the show, Chase.
Thank you. It's so exciting to be here, especially for the New Year show.
That's right.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah. Yes. And it was quite an interesting year indeed, wasn't it?
I think, honestly, it was one of our biggest years when it came to information and change and excitement. So much happened in 2018.
I think so. Now, for the listener, it's the first time. I know you've been on several times, but we have new listeners all the time. Can you kind of explain your background and who is Chase?
Well, I've been a ufologist since 1994, and I joined MUFON in 1996, and have had various jobs throughout this organization for many, many years, a couple decades actually. But I also have a big presence, and I stayed very active in other kind of side projects. I love exploration, and with my forte and specialty being forensics and evidence collection, it's led me to exquisite places such as Peru, the Amazon, Bolivia, extracting all sorts of DNA and evidence and physical trace components to things that we're really trying to solve, some of these mysteries.
Yes, and I remember talking to you about some of the stories of your exploration. Really exciting. You were having a ball. And do you feel like in some of those countries, you feel like there's a little bit of danger? How's that?
I don't think I've ever been to South America without some sort of incident. I was with LA's exploration team a couple years back, and we were just crossing the border into Bolivia, and these two agents came and pulled L.A. Marzulli, Aaron Judkins, and myself away from the group. But the group was, so focused on kind of maneuvering to get through the crowd to get to our bus, they didn't notice we were taken. So instead of going back to the passport building we just left, they actually brought us down this little path to this dilapidated building, set L.A. and Aaron out in like a hallway where these two folding chairs, one was even broken and leaning, terrible little place. And then brought me to the back and shut the door. And I knew I was in a little bit of trouble at that point. The Bolivian agent asked me to empty my pockets and empty everything out of my purse. And as I'm doing this, I'm hearing like chaos in the background, like something being ridiculous and loud. And all of a sudden the door comes popping open, like they busted through the door, and it was LA and Aaron, and they're just screaming and yelling and making a lot of noise, like, "You're not keeping her back here by herself. What do you guys want? What is this about?" Realizing, thank goodness, that I was with men, who weren't afraid to kick it up and take a chance instead of doing what they were told. because it was very clear that they brought us to an area that they needed to be quiet as well. They didn't want others to see what they were doing, so it was illegal. So they just made noise, creating that kind of attention they didn't want, and they literally let us go. He said, put it back in your pocket, get out, get out, get out. So very grateful that, we have, I'm usually with a team of explorers and investigators that we really take care of each other when we're out there.
And do I remember right that you have a background also in self-defense or something like that?
Yeah. It's you're already in a little trouble when you're sizing up people you're around. When you're already looking like, all right, I can take him, and then you're looking around. It's and then we have to remember, we're in their territory. Almost everything we do, we probably wouldn't get away with because we stand out like sore thumbs. So there's a lot of diplomacy and just knowing, where you are and what you can do. It really is an alertness and being very aware of your surroundings at all times. There's no closing your eyes for a moment.
The soldiers, a couple places I've been where there's soldiers with automatic weapons is always very intimidating to me.
Yeah. Get off a plane in Israel and you're met with soldiers and Uzis. It's like some of these countries that just don't play. That's what you're dealing with, especially overseas. They have a lot of their own rules and the way they do things. The most recent trip, I was down with Bohic Ruse and Inca Quest Enterprises with Timothy Alberino. It's his group. And that was really interesting because, we put boots on the ground in places that had never seen humans before. So it was very, very interesting. It was the most dangerous thing I've ever done, and I can't wait to do it again. These guys were everything from the bullet ants to the terrain. It was treacherous and dangerous and just amazing. But again, with people that know what they're doing and how to negotiate and be around some of this.
My niece has done some exploring in places that I wouldn't go and talked about, parasites and I don't know, all that stuff.
We were in the Amazon, in the jungle, and everything wanted to eat us.
Right.
Plants, animals, insects. I mean, everything wants to eat you out there. And it's just really interesting.
I think the tree frogs are one of the most poisonous too, right?
And they're so cute.
I know.
It's like all these cute little bugs. I'm like, oh, and they're like, don't touch that. It's the most painful, bite ever. And so it's interesting. But Timothy is, a very, very popular investigator and explorer as well. And he runs a conference every year in Branson, Missouri with Steve Quayle. And it's Gen 6. And of course, that's a play off Genesis 6. So it's a huge conference. It's sold out every year for the last 3 years at 3,000 people, and their live feeds are about 10,000. It's crazy group of people that are just so interested in the topic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we better steer a little bit into the UFO topic since the UFO show. I know I'd like to end the show, talking about, UFOs forward and, 2019, what we could be looking for there. I think it will be an interesting year myself, another one. But can you also, I hate to put this on you, but I just love you talking briefly in a nutshell about the most amazing experience, one of the most, it's in my intro and everything. The cornfield. Can you kind of bring that up again? Because there's a lot of people who have never heard your story before.
It still remains one of the biggest things that ever happened to me as an investigator, and this was 2010. About spring, late April, May, and I was called out to an investigation. One of the witnesses reported into MUFON, and he was witnessing all sorts of things from these orbs of light, for lack of a better word, orbs, but these balls of light that, he and his cousins would chase down the roads. And, these are, very, very rural, isolated farmland and ranches way, way back in Tennessee. And, triangles, there was a lot of things that, he was reporting on a daily basis. And of course, I was stalled getting out there for a couple of weeks because there was an epic flood, what they call the 1,000-year flood from Memphis to Nashville. So it really ruined our passage to the area on, most of it anyway. But I got there, and eventually, from the minute I stepped out of my vehicle, he pulled me and the other investigator to the end of his driveway, and was looking up and said, "Oh my gosh, this is what we see." And I look up, and there's these little specks of light starting to pop out. They were clearly different colors as well, and they would form these patterns and kind of maneuver as one unit, but then they would separate and kind of dance around. And if you got tired of this little group, there was another one here and another one on another piece of the sky, but there were several of these going on. And the witness, and at this point, I've got my pad out and I'm looking, we're like looking for satellites and, all sorts of things, meteor showers, give me anything. I'm already seeing things that I think are awesome. This is what we're looking for, bright angles, that kind of maneuvering in the sky is exactly what ufologists are trying to catch. But then he tells me that he has a cornfield, and it's just down the road, and it's huge. So you kind of have this big open panoramic view of, it's unobstructed. You could see so much of the sky. And at that point, the corn was only about 4 or 5 inches high. So it was real pliable. So we could drive on it, walk on it, not going to hurt any crops. But it was flat land. There was nothing there to obstruct. So we jump in his truck, and he takes us down there. And it wasn't long. We're setting up equipment, getting everything done. But, it was eventually, a light appeared in the distance. And, he's all excited. Oh, my gosh, yes, Chase, this is what, I wanted you to come out to see. And I see this one light, and it's white. And it's coming towards us, and I'm freaking excited. I'm picking up my cameras. I'm trying to, take pictures. Nothing's working. My tri-field meter, nothing. It's all dead. So at this point, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's that battery drain that we experience often in UFO investigations, as well as paranormal, sometimes even Bigfoot investigations. But we, it kept coming. It didn't stop the event. Pretty soon, 2 other lights appear, and I can't believe it. There's 3 of them. 3 objects are coming this way. And then I realized, Martin, as it gets closer, it's one object. It's so clearly a triangle at this point. There's just one object. Not only does it black out the stars, but as it's coming closer, it's different. It's just different. The way it moves, it's hard to explain. It's not drifting, floating, flying, towed. It's just different. And we're just standing there. I'm still trying to pick up cameras. I'm still trying to do something with it. But, this triangle literally flew over that cornfield, right over our heads, and eventually went off into the distance.
Now, how many, there was 2 other people there beside you at the time?
In the cornfield.
Yeah.
His cousins were on the sidelines.
Uh-huh. Did they see it
yeah.
too?
Yes, they saw the triangle. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, there's I'm reaching down after the craft is gone, of course, and I'm reaching down looking at my equipment, and I'm so frustrated. Like, I was already ready to drop F-bombs. In fact, I think I did 1 or 2, because I was so frustrated because it's right there. I have all the equipment in the world, and it was useless, absolutely useless. And it's so frustrating as an investigator because nobody cares what I think as an investigator. No one cares what I believe. And I didn't want just another story. We have tens of thousands of stories. We need evidence. So anyway, I decided, I pick up my cameras. They're all back online. It wasn't a battery drain. I don't know what happened, but everything was back, full power. Everything was working. But at that point, I remember it was the tri-field. It was my tri-field meter, and I just decided I'm changing batteries anyway. I just got nervous with trusting that. So on the tri-field meter, the one that I have, you have to unscrew the battery case. And I was doing that, and all of a sudden I just got this really, really paranoid feeling of just someone was watching. And I said out loud, "Hey guys, does anyone else feel like you're being watched? And I don't mean down here." And about that time, Martin, it was like this physical thing. It was this physical transformation that just kind of pounded into the body. I felt something enter, and it was terror, absolute terror. And at that moment, I went from very excited seeing this triangle. We were happy dancing. This was no joke. We had just seen something that's not supposed to exist. Right into this feeling. Every cell of my body was absolutely terrorized, absolutely terrified, and it was physical. And I just remember turning and running. As I'm running, I just remember hitting something really hard. It turned out to be the witness who had stopped. He was in front of me. And it's funny, Martin, because the other thing I really remember was the strangest thing. It was this light. As I'm running, this light is just doing this, left, right, but in this U. And it turned out to be the witness running with the flashlight.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So, all of a sudden he stops. I run into him, smack in the back. I don't even know how we were still standing. I really hit him hard. And I grabbed the back of his shirt, and I remember him saying something like, what the F is this? And he takes his left hand, and he swings it out. And about 6 feet from us was this little being. And I remember the very first thing that went through my mind was, oh my God, it's not that cute little Roswell guy. So, and after 1002, that's the time frame that we stood and I looked straight into this being. We started running again, and we jumped in his truck. We went back to his driveway, and we all kind of tumbled out like, wait a minute, what just happened? We saw a being. At this point, Martin, we had to call the state director at the time was Eddie Middleton, and the other investigator was on the phone making the call to him to let him know, what just happened, because we're now witnesses. We can't talk to each other and compare notes until, we've been interviewed separately. But I can tell you that we were back in that cornfield within 30 minutes of leaving it. Now, the thing that frustrates me the most is people aren't listening sometimes when we tell the story. They're like, oh my God, she ran away from an alien. No, we didn't. We had this controlled fear, or this fear that whatever that was, we had no control. We did exactly what we were supposed to. Whatever reason, I am sure after all these years, we were not supposed to be in that field at the time. And I'm not sure if it was a triangle or, the being or whatever it was out there. The other thing is, we didn't run away from that being. We ran towards it. Right. It's why it was only 6 feet away. So this wasn't being afraid of contacting or afraid of that being. No one knew he was there.
Was the being between you and the vehicles where you parked?
It was off to the side. We were running towards the vehicles, but we were more at as the vehicle would be 12 o'clock, we were running more at 10. We were running more at the number 10. And we get to that spot, there's the being, and then we're back into the vehicle. It was about 2 weeks before I realized that the other investigator never saw the being. She was already, by the time we all turned and ran at the exact same time, same direction, everything, she was already ahead of where that being was at the time.
Wow.
And I didn't know that for 2 weeks. I just assumed she saw it too, but she didn't. And of course, we didn't really talk to each other because we weren't supposed to until we were debriefed by other investigators. But
did you ever compare stories
to
the
after?
when you were interviewed? Yes.
Not until after we were interviewed, and
right,
then
that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yes. Well, then, I promised the witness as soon as that was completed, we could compare stories. And we actually had a really small little conference in Tennessee, and Eddie wanted us to talk about this case, and it was too soon. Emotionally, I don't know. We weren't ready, but we did it anyway. And we laid out the case with all the facts. Eddie was there. The chief investigator at the time, Max Mitchell, he came out to the site. I mean, there was plenty of MUFON investigators that had come out and, check things out. My husband had been there. I mean, there was, a lot of investigation after. I think people missed that because they love to hear about what happened in the cornfield. Mm-hmm. And they forget that there were months of inquiry and investigation and forensic type work in that cornfield after, and it's just, to this day, it's still a mystery.
When you talk about it, does it kind of give you anxiety, and even now?
It really does.
I could tell a little bit. Yeah.
You try hard to stay calm when, and I don't know why, Martin, it's like so long, it's been several years. And I still get a knot in my stomach when we get to the point of seeing that, little being, or it's mostly the fear. That's something I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And it's such an odd feeling because as hard as we remember, and this is something I did talk with the witness and the other investigator, how long did that fear last? I don't know when it left. I don't know. I just remember I knew it hit me. I remember turning. I saw everyone else turn at the same time. No one said, "What was that? Oh my God, run." Nobody said anything like that. We all just did it.
Wow.
Turned and started running. The witness and I ran straight to that being. And that's something, you realize after, the more people, thousands, without exaggerating, Martin, thousands of people have written me, called me, talked to me, pulled me aside and said, "I know that fear. I felt that." It's so hard to describe because it is. Every cell in your body understands terror and nothing else. It's excruciating. It's an extraordinary feeling.
Have you ever had it since or before?
No.
That was it. Wow.
That was it. I can tell you that when I talk about it, I feel like I start sensing a little bit of what that felt like, mm-hmm. but it's never even gotten close. I mean, this wasn't fight or flight. This wasn't, we were scared and, it wasn't anything like that. And the witness, you have to realize, this is a real man. He brought a big shotgun. When we got out of the truck and I'm setting up a little equipment, he brings out this huge shotgun, and I just kind of look at him like, like I'm looking at that point like how stupid is this? Two girls jump in a car, like, what are we going to do? We go to a cornfield with this guy we don't know because we just trust everything they're telling us, which isn't exactly true. It's very credible. But, and the look on my face, he says, no, Chase, don't worry. We have a problem with coyotes. So in case, they come upon us, I can take care of it. He never said, if we see coyotes, you're going to have to run and get in the truck. He brought a rifle or a shotgun or whatever it was. It was just a big old gun. And I realized at that point, they don't dial 911. They take care of themselves out there. It's so rural. By the time anyone would come out to help, whatever was going on's over.
Yeah.
So they're mostly calling police to, clean up or tell what happened. But these aren't guys that are used to asking people or running away or, they stand their ground. And
I do remember I know you can't disclose who it is, but I do remember that you told me that this was someone that is known for his profession.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons he was desperate. serious. It's one of the reasons the case was kind of shut down a little, is because it started becoming a circus, which is something I promised him. It is so rural out there that even my vehicle being strange driving down the road caught attention of everybody. Who's that? What are they doing here? Who are they going to go visit? And yeah. And, when you start getting a lot of people and a lot of inquiry and, these strange people, what are they doing in that cornfield? It started turning into a circus, and we had to shut it down because his identity associated with the UFO event was absolutely, I think that thought just terrified him to the point where he'd back off and say, I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, it was just ridiculous. But I do have a feeling he'll come out eventually. It may be a couple more years. I hope it's tomorrow because, the other investigator, she left shortly after that, and she doesn't talk about it. And it's kind of, I'm the only one that's really talking about what happened that night. And it'd be nice to have something, collaboration, the witness coming out would be so great. So I'm waiting for that. I really am waiting.
Now, how could you go back there? You said you're back there in 30 minutes with that feeling of, terror previously there.
I just don't know when it left. By the time we got out of the truck, Martin, it was gone. I don't know if it left in the truck or at what point. All I know is by the time we got to the driveway and we were out, I realized, oh, wait a minute. Like, I'm kind of thinking back to normal. It was like, why did we do that? But by the time we got out of that cornfield, nobody had that fear anymore. There was none of that. So realizing, that I got more excited about the fact that, oh my gosh, there was an entity on the ground. There was this being on the ground. There's footprints, forensic evidence. I mean, I'm back in investigator mode. I need to get back in that cornfield. That's what I was thinking about. Hadn't even really processed the fear yet, or even afraid it was coming back. So, going back to that field was just, I was excited. I needed to get back and get that evidence. And of course, there was none.
And,
of course.
Yeah. And the description, I remember you describing the being. You said you saw for just a flash. And I remember you saying something about the legs looking almost like stick legs or something, really tiny legs.
It's really stood out, Martin, because, this being was small, about 3.5 feet. I don't really remember seeing the arms. I'm sure he had them, but his legs were so twig-like. They didn't make sense, and it's probably why it stood out. They wouldn't have held his body. When I say twig, it's like thinner than my pinky. And, these little, and of course now realizing, with the night shots going back, with the flashlights, we realized that the angle that the light hit him, it was shadowed. His legs were probably normal. We just saw the little parts that were lit up. And, the other thing that I couldn't stop thinking about, there were two things on the way home. One was that didn't make sense because that cornfield was so dark. The sky was amazing, with all the stars, and it was such a clear, beautiful evening. And how do you go from that dark to this halogen, normal, most everybody has in their vehicle flashlight, 6 feet from your face, from that dark to bam, blasted with this big halogen light and not move? The being, when I saw it, seemed completely unaffected. It didn't squinch. It didn't do this. It, completely stoic, like it was mechanical. Although I knew the minute I saw it, it was biology. It was biological. It had skin. His eyes were real. This wasn't fake. Because I did look at this.
Did you think for a second that it could have been a scarecrow? I mean, I don't even know if they use scarecrows.
No, not with this being.
Yeah.
At all.
Mm-hmm.
What I did think back at the driveway was, those cousins were out there, but they stayed at the sideline. What if they brought that being out and, set that little thing up and, we, didn't see it for some reason walking up because it was a little off, and they waited for that to happen. But it doesn't explain the fear. It doesn't explain the triangle. It doesn't explain a lot of that. But when I came back, I saw exactly, because remember, this is right after the waters receded from that flood.
Yeah.
So we had footprints everywhere. It was muddy, not the type where you're kicking up mud, but it was soft enough. I saw every footprint we made. I could tell where I hit him, where he stopped. There were no footprints coming here. So in other words, the cousins couldn't have brought a fake being out there.
Yeah.
You know, and to tell you the truth, when we left, I don't even remember seeing the cousins get into their vehicle or anything, because they had one out there. I don't remember any of that. I just remember us getting in the truck, and we left so fast. We caught air coming out before we landed on, the main road, a country main road, to get back to his house. And we caught air. And I remember the cousins kind of driving by after we had already pulled in, and they went home. They didn't even stop. They're gone. And they also would not talk to anybody about it after. They were terrified. They shut down. They didn't want anything. They did come out and meet the state director, Eddie Middleton, and Eddie got to talk to them a little bit, just enough to acknowledge that they were there. And they saw a triangle again. By the way, again, they'd seen many. I saw one. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I look for all of that stuff.
Now,
the other thing I couldn't stop
ahead.
thinking about on the way home, Martin, was bullcrap. Nobody gets everything in one night. There's something wrong with that evening.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, I feel like that. I feel like there's something wrong. I can't find it, but I'm still looking, digging in a little bit. I've never not had this experience kind of on my mind, no matter where I go, who I'm talking to, what I'm doing. It's always there. So I'm still trying to figure out what happened. But I'm the first one to admit, man, I wish I had something better to say, like a normal UFO experience, something that's more common, things that we hear all the time. But it's not. It's the craziest evening that makes absolutely no sense. I can't make heads or tails of what was going on. Did the triangle cause the fear? Was it the being? Was it a combination? And then there's always that thought that I didn't understand until a little later. And you'll know this one, Martin, because when we talk to experiencers or abductees, we hear often that they can feel what that being is feeling. And all of a sudden it hit me, oh my God, what if that fear that was not human, it was so extraordinary, it was tremendous terror, was actually what that being was feeling.
Amazing.
And it was just projected onto us. And I can't even process that right now. I mean, it's in my head. I just can't go there. Not yet.
Now, you said earlier when you started talking about this, you said that nobody cares about what you believe or feel. Why would that be? I mean, you must have had colleagues in MUFON you could have called and said, oh my God, you can't believe what happened, and, share the story that way. Or does it all have to be just plain documented and that's it? Like,
I meant more like as an investigator. When people call me out, they don't really care what I believe about the UFO issue. That's not why they're calling me. They're calling me because, or contacting MUFON. They didn't even call me. This was a MUFON case. They want an investigator. They're looking for answers. They don't care what we think or believe. They're not looking for commentary. They're looking for answers, and that comes from evidence. So I'm very aware of this, that people don't really care. I don't care what other investigators believe or think. That you leave that outside. You come in, you have to have an objective, completely clean slate every time you walk into a new case, period. And that's, something that I think that's what I meant. I don't think that's what I meant. That's exactly what I meant is, so many times, people go in and, well, I think this is what happened to you. We need to stop that.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But obviously this was something that made you very emotional and really affected your life. And have you written about this anywhere, like on your website or?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's Ryan Sprague asked for this experience, but he was writing a book about personal experiences, like the personal, what the takeaway personally on some of these events with contactees. And so I let him write about it. But nope, I haven't.
Yeah.
In fact, TV, all over it. They want this story so bad, they've offered to pay for it. Even recently, as of 2 weeks ago, I actually pulled it and said, no, that's not for sale. This is not entertainment. It's real, and it's a mystery that has taken out an investigator that no longer is involved in the field anymore. I don't know if this event had exactly to do with that. All I know is she's gone, got in a car, and left family, house, husband, all of it.
Really? Wow.
Yes. It's why I say the other investigator, and I don't name her name because she wants no part of it. So out of respect, I don't continue to bring her in. The witness is still, his whole family was affected by the things going on. And it's not for sale. I don't know any other way to put it. I do talk about it rarely, and I talk about it with trusted people like yourself, Alejandro, a couple others that you and I know really well that I'm comfortable. It's still something that we need to process these things. It made me a better investigator, Martin, because when you see something that hits you so deeply, and I'd even say in your soul, it's just something that you can't just process in 3 weeks, or it takes a while. Now I wonder if these bigger experiences that we hear about from our experiencers, contactees, and abductees, it takes them years, decades sometimes, to be able to talk about what happened openly. I had one night, 1 second, and it's still with me in such a profound way. Imagine having a lifetime of abductions and these types of memories or experiences. That's nutty. You put it in perspective, and it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and the strange thing about you said like all this happening, and one night I was looking at the chat room and someone said it could be interdimensional or something like that, and it's just one of these big, huge question marks. How could
I believe it is. Yeah. I'm going on the record and saying that, and I've said this before, I believe even on your show, I don't believe that they're getting here on a full tank of gas and a Red Bull. I really believe, because every amateur astronomer, we'd watch them enter our airspace. We would watch them enter and transverse, from the moon to, we could see this now, and we're not. So it's either cloaking technology or they're using a physics we don't understand. And if we're going to be honest, and if we're going to finally, as ufologists, put together some data, in other words, what do we know? This is a big thing I'm doing in 2019. I'm so sick of proclamations and guessing, and I'm like, MUFON is 50 years old this year.
Wow.
We have 50 years of data, eyewitness testimony. We have investigations into big things. We have contacts all over the world. It's time we start using it. It's time we start putting this puzzle together. So I really have created a think tank, Martin, where we call it a strategic review team, and I'm really taking a very eclectic group. We have amazing personnel in this. We even have the UN prosecuting attorney for war crimes in this think tank.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is all through MUFON.
It is. Mm-hmm. They're all MUFON members. And what we're going to do is we are going to look at the ET hypothesis as a counterintelligence operation. In other words, like we're going to find out about what does this terrorist group, what do we know about them? What do they do? What's their ideology? Are there anything that they're doing logistically? How do they work? And that's how we're going to attack this. And I know this is going to send some people into the, oh, I told you they're infiltrated by the government and, you know, Secret Service or whatever. And the truth is, this is smart. This is the smart way to go after this, because the first thing we do is, what do we know? We know they're secret. We know they're clandestine. Why? What is that? What does this mean? The second thing we would answer is, well, we know they communicate, right? They communicate telepathically. They communicate through binary code, crop circles. Crop circles, whoa, there's something. Those are testable scientific evidence because they're different and they're testable. And we're finding code written in them. We have 4 now, all pretty much giving us the same message. So do we put this in the worthy column or do we throw it out? So when we start putting together and looking at this, instead of as, a big mystery and, let's look at it like a reality, and let's look at it like we would anything else, a brand new hater group, or, how do we profile and put together and understand it as a big picture. And that's what we're doing in 2019. We've already started. This think tank is, what do we know? What do they do? What are some of the other implications? We're going as far as, where are the claims, Betty Hill, some of the things that she was told. Let's listen to this. Let's listen to this, because I know our answers are going to come from the eyewitness testimony and the experiencers, plain and simple.
What is the message? You said there's two messages that are.
Well, there's 4, like in the crop circles. Remember the typical gray head in a crop circle with the disc?
Yeah.
And then we have, and we also sent out, like, remember our little DNA strand, and it had all these. We got one back.
And the Voyager. Yeah.
Yes.
Was it the Voyager? I think that's.
I believe so.
Yeah.
And we get one back. Well, what does that mean? Are they communicating with us? So it is a warning. It's a warning about beware of deceivers, and beware of deceivers with gifts. They're coming with promises and gifts, and we need to be very careful of that. Well, again, as this think tank, what does that mean? Well, it means we have a warning. So it means we have a friend, or we have allies. Somebody's caring enough about humanity to send this warning. Or is that warning a deception in itself? So this is where we're going with this. Instead of looking at this like a big mystery, we're going after this like it's, a new group of people, or a new group that we have to understand and almost gather the same intel, just like they've done in secret. What do they know about us? Are they studying? We need to do the same back. We need to gather intelligence and figure this out. What do we know? So, unfortunately, this kind of has a bad connotation to it of, people are going to be like, counterintelligence operation. That's what she called it, Bob. But it's effective. This is an effective way to examine something, and it's also admissible.
Is there going to be transparency with this as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is something that, even me talking about what we're doing now very publicly, because this is something we should all be doing. I'm not keeping secret like, oh, well, we got something that may be coming out in a few months. Heck no, let's talk about it. Let's, keep things very open. And that's something that MUFON needs to get better with their messaging. Part of our mission statement is education, and we have information everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, on our website, there's an open CMS log. Pull up UFO Stalker. Go on to the main website, go to track UFOs, and hit that UFO stalker. Tell me we're hiding anything. Come on, guys, this is ridiculous. That stalker tells you the log description, where it is, what happened. The only thing you're not going to get is witness contact information, and that's because most don't want everybody in the world giving them a call and showing up at their door.
Yeah, you have to make people feel safe if they're going to talk.
Absolutely. So, I think we just need to get better at our messaging. Why do people not know that we do all this? Why do people not know that we have a symposium every year, or we have a journal that comes out every single month, or we have newsletters or states that are actively involved, the state directors that are putting on meetings in every state around the country and even other countries around the world? Why do people still want to say MUFON doesn't do anything or generate information? And it's not the public's fault. We're not messaging correctly because we have all of this available, and yet we still hear that. It's crazy.
Well, speaking of that, the To the Stars Academy, or TTSA, or whatever you want to call it, the big complaint about that you hear a lot about them is that there's something big coming up, or we can't, like, a lot of people are saying they're just holding information, and why, what's their, what's going on there? What do you feel about all that?
I think we're jaded with the disclosure and the claims of, it's breaking, it's coming, this year's the year, Hillary Clinton's the candidate. I mean, we're so burned out. So I am. I even hate the word disclosure. I don't even want to hear it anymore. It's annoying. So for To the Stars Academy, they're new guys. They're really new guys. They don't have the background to even know that some of the cases they're working on or some of the evidence they picked up has been done 40 times already by many, many credible people in labs. So, they're new. And but they have money. And that's always going to be the difference of them being successful or not. And it takes money to travel. It takes money to go get these things. It takes money to analyze all this data.
And materials they claim to have too.
Correct. And I'm interested to see what they show us. We all know they have a show on A&E coming out. We all know that they've been very busy collecting evidence. I can't wait to see what they reveal. And I hope it's something we haven't heard 100 times before. I think people, we have benchmark cases, Rendlesham, Roswell, Betty Barney Hill. These are all huge cases, but there's other things going on. Can we hear about those for a while? If you know what I mean. We keep rehashing the same old information, and there's a lot of new stuff coming out. So that's one thing. The other thing about To the Stars is they really, Lou. I
was going to ask
what
you.
what do we think about Lou? Well, I get mad at how quickly our field can turn and just be so ugly, honestly. We beg. We have talked about for decades, for people like us that have been doing this for more than 2 years. We have been trying to get lawmakers engaged and talking about this issue. We've been trying to get our military and some of our secret keepers, some of our alphabet agencies, CIA, FBI. We've been trying to get these people to talk to us, and when they do, first thing we do is shred them. Oh, he's a secret agent. He's doing this. He's doing that. My question is, what disinformation is Lou giving us? Because they're not talking to us. They're not talking to anybody right now. They know who their audience is, and it's the public. They don't give two craps about what the ufologists think of them right now, or they've got their head down and they're working. And that was a lesson MUFON took from To the Stars Academy. That's not our audience, are not the people that have been doing this for 40 years. Our audience is the public who's looking for real answers, scientific fact, scientific certainty, admissible conclusion and probative data. That's what the public's looking for. And that's when I go back to what I first said. Nobody cares what I believe. We've got thousands of belief systems and people weighing in on their opinions. We hear them all the time. It's all over, radio, TV, and, but I really am frustrated that the minute somebody comes out from our government, this was huge. For ATIP to come out, for the first time in a long time, Martin, I felt vindicated as a UFO investigator for all the eye rolling my friends have given me, for all the, tongue-in-cheek jokes we took that, all the tinfoil hat antics we put up with. And guess what, guys? 5th floor, take a left, 3rd door on your right, ATIP, been actively investigating UFOs. What now, people? What now?
Yeah.
Thank you, Lou, for bringing that out, because to me, just that alone was worth everything. That vindication, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Martin, right?
Yeah, I think it's changed everything. And
Yeah.
I know you and I both met Lou down at Cherry Hill, and what a great guy, first of all. And I know that he, at first, talking with Alejandro, who talked to him, I spoke to him there, but Alejandro keeps in touch with him, I guess, or
Yes,
has.
yeah.
And I know
do
that
too. I do too. But yeah, Alejandro, I know is a good contact. Lou keeps Alejandro pretty close.
Yeah. So, but I know that he was, he was actually rather hurt by some of the jabs that were thrown at him, and Alejandro basically says, "Don't look anymore," just because he was getting involved, like in Reddit and places like that where people were slamming him, and
Yeah.
Well, I think it's all been good. And, I heard some naysayers actually at the conference, after watching him saying, he was boring. He didn't say anything. I could have done a better job. And, I think there's a lot of jealousy in the field or something.
Absolutely agree. And we've seen it before. We've watched the public build up who they want to hear from and then shred them. It's an unbelievable field. And, we're fortunate, Martin, because you have an amazing inner group of people that you're close with, Alejandro, and a lot of those people that are, we know that they're honest and we know that they're good people and they treat people well. And we like that. Instead of joining the bandwagon of criticism and even going after those that come out, I don't understand, Martin. We're desperate for whistleblowers. We want to talk to government officials. And the minute we do, even like Bob Lazar, I don't care whether you believe him or not. The fact that we ask for these types of whistleblowers and then we spend so much time just shredding them, we're not listening. I think we're not listening. And to tell you the truth, the internet and social media is the worst thing that happened to ufology. We forgot. We're getting our information off of social media instead of going to the source. I was so thankful. There was this thing with Secure Team 10 and MUFON recently, and it was so great because, these guys from Secure Team called us and talked to us and emailed us, and, there's been this ongoing, and we have to go to the source, and we have to talk to these people. I'm just amazed. If Bigelow offered me money right now to investigate, and whatever I found, I could give to the public, but I also have to give it to him. Done. New York second. Unfortunately, it takes money to do what we have to do and to get where we need to go. And I would take it in a New York second, and people would shred me for it. And this is where we are, Martin. We don't care. I don't care what the rhetoric is behind my back, because there's a lot of it on all of us. It's amazing. I've got my head down. I'm working in my group. And whether we're successful or not, we've given an honest and diligent try. And we're not wasting time with the gossip and the bull crap. We're solving issues. meeting at think tanks. We're talking for hours about what do we know. We're talking hours about are crop circles admissible? Is this admissible communication? We're trying to take it to a level where a dossier is being written because I live here. I'm going to talk to Congress. I am going to talk to the Intelligence Committee. We are going to get our time with them. It's just a matter of time. We're going to do this, and we need to be ready. We have to have a professional dossier. We have to have professional commentary and a summary to hand them for them to understand.
Would you take a question to the think tank? And because I had someone call in the other day, and it's actually something I've thought about a number of times, and I think it is kind of meaningful in a way, and that is, why would these things have lights?
It's a great question. I am going to write that down, and I have heard this one before because it's odd. Why do they have lights? They seem to have very Earth-like technology. Mm-hmm. For an advanced species or advanced race that's transversing time and space, right?
Yeah. And do they
awesome.
have lights? Do they show the lights because they want us to see them? Or, what is going on with the lights? Because they obviously don't need them.
Well, yes, absolutely. And another question that we kind of consider is, even in the crop circles, why is it more recently that we're finding the binary code? And of course, one of the answers from one of our amazing minds really was, well, maybe they had to dumb it down because we weren't catching the first 25 or the first 100. We didn't understand the sacred geometry, or they're like, oh, they'll definitely get this one. Nope, we missed it again. So yeah, we're still debating on whether these amazing, geometrical, sacred geometry symbols and shapes are done by a board and a couple guys in the woods. Even with the forensic testing and analysis of blown nodes and, the difference and in the crop itself, we're still fighting that crazy, accusation.
Yeah, BLT Research. Are you familiar? You're familiar with them?
Yes.
With Nancy. Yeah, I had her on the show years ago. Interesting woman.
And it is, and thank goodness for Nancy. Thank goodness, because she has brought the evidence. She has brought the science to the crop circles for this to even be legit. Even if we found the binary code without her testable science and discovery of what separates these real from fake, yeah, we have probative information that we can now research and understand crop circle messages.
And BLT Research, I think that's what it's called, like bacon, lettuce, tomato. They were funded initially by the Rockefeller, and I guess Bigelow, in a way, is kind of the Rockefeller of today as far as ufology goes.
He used to be.
Yeah.
And of course, he was burned so bad and shredded, by the haters as well. He's turned away. He wants nothing to do with it.
That has to do. People were thinking there was this is what I've heard. People were thinking there was an underhand because of the fact that he wanted, the information, and he actually got people involved in doing research when MUFON couldn't do it, when he just wanted, answers basically. But he wasn't hiding anything. He wasn't saying, we want the information and no one else can have it, type of thing.
And he also locked it down, because his people were being discredited. If you can't kill the story, go after the investigator. And we've all experienced some of that, even within our own community. When I see somebody just hell-bent on taking down MUFON or a single person, you have to wonder what that person's motive is, especially when that person or this organization's been around for a while and most people know their background and know their fiber. So you have to wonder. And I think we just need to bring more sophistication into our thinking and more of this critical thinking. We're either going to solve this or we're going to have fun doing it. Pick one. You can do both, but pick one. If this is just kind of fun and we love talking about it, that's okay, but admit it. Do not put your beliefs in everything. Well, I think this. We got tons of that. We've got, you could go to Facebook and get that. That's not what people expect from me. That's not what people expect from MUFON or you. You know, they're expecting a little more diligence in who's telling the truth, who's worthy.
Right. You know, it comes. I was having this conversation with I was talking to Scott Ramsey the other day on the phone.
Great guy, great investigator.
Really nice guy. And we were basically coming up with, sometimes, you know, he stays away from a lot of the conferences. And I said, you know, why? Basically, he says, well, because, you know, sometimes it can get, you know, wacky. He went to one where there was a lot of wacky things going on. I have noticed myself sometimes, and this may get some people upset, I don't know, but sometimes the further out on the fringe it is, the more people are engaged and happy and getting, you know, creating a standing ovation. I've seen that happen a few times. There's really no control over that. It's just that I think in that sense, it's almost like a religion or something. It's almost like people are looking for something. You know, I'm very interested in this topic because I really think there is something to it. I don't believe that I feel it's like a religion. You know, I can't see that. I don't feel that way about it. I just think it's very fascinating, and I think there's something to it, and I think there could be answers, hopefully in my lifetime, but
Do you also feel like it's the same people all the time, every time? This is something else. I'm doing a lot less conference, even speaking. I love Congress, so but I work Congress. When I go, I'm working.
I know. I didn't see when the last time I was there. I didn't see you anywhere but up front helping Karen that whole time.
Yeah,
and you're working
it's
hard.
Important. And it's important, and I'll tell you why. Because Elizondo and Karen have done a lot for a lot of people out here, me included. They're amazing friends of mine, and they're loyal friends of mine. And yeah, I will stand at the back of that counter and sell their T-shirts and work, and I'll clean toilets, whatever they need, because this is how we help them be successful in also providing, decent speakers and commentary. This is my way of helping them as well. So, but doing a lot less conferences because I need to work. I need to get. We need to get some of this stuff put together. We're 70 years old as a field, as ufologists.
Yeah.
And MUFON's 50 years. Where's our stuff? Our stuff's all over the place. I used to ask all the time, where's your stuff, MUFON? Well, what I realized, we have stuff everywhere. Our messaging is horrible. Why do people not know it? Why do our own members ask, well, where's the START team investigations? They were on 7 of the journal covers and searchable. Like, how do we not know this? How are people missing this? So, I think it's messaging, but 50 years. We have to be able to put together something. We have 50 years of eyewitness testimonies all over the world. MUFON is the archivists and the world historians of investigated cases from eyewitnesses. That's remarkable.
Amazing. I try to take a call. Caller, are you on the line? I guess it didn't go through. So we may be having a call come in, and I encourage the caller to try again. So that number's up on the screen in YouTube. If anyone wants to call in, that number's there. Give it another try if somehow I disconnected you. During the second hour, we take calls if people would like to call in. They're trying again here. Let me give it a shot. Unless there's something wrong with Skype. Hello there. This is Martin, and you are joined in on the call. Your first name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Martin. This is Andy from Stratford, Connecticut.
Hi, Andy. Welcome to the show. You have a question for our guest?
So yeah, sort of a question / observation. I just wanted to say, put in my 2 cents for the UFO issue. For the big picture is just that, you know, any exposure is good, whether you like the TTSA and what they're doing or not, and just that. I feel like, you know, for instance, with the USS Nimitz, the Tic Tac incident, the government or the DoD was going to eventually have to admit that there's another reality, and then that would enable, as it did, the TTSA to go public and to, you know, form as an organization and to start discussing the subject. And I think it just points to the fact that as things develop and move along through time, the government's not in control of the subject or, you know, the phenomenon, and that people continue to see things, different sizes and shapes and colors all over the world, and that they were eventually, or it was inevitable, that the government was going to have to relinquish their, you know, tight-lipped, top-secret treatment of the subject.
Can you hold just 1 second?
Yep. Sure.
I just want to say I have another caller on the line. Caller, you're going to have to hold on, okay?
Oh, that's fine. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead. Keep going.
So yeah, just that, you know, big picture, it's all headed in the direction of ultimately the governments of the world will have to admit we're not alone. Something's happening. Because they're not in control of the subject. And that's pretty much, I'll conclude my comment with that don't know how Chase or you feel, but.
You are absolutely right. Absolutely right. One of the other things we're learning when we really look at the government and listen to what Lou is telling us, the government doesn't know anything either. They're stumped. They didn't have an answer. They don't know what this is either. So, you're absolutely right, Andy. And this is another reason. It was Andy, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is one of the reasons that your comment and your call is so appreciated, because they're not in control. And that's not a good thing when you're in charge of national security. When the public trusts you to be in charge and can protect, you know, our nation and, you know, the people that are here, and to find out that they have no idea either, they're not in control. And that's something that we consider in our think tank. What if this secret isn't ours to tell? What if the ramifications are so dire on humanity if their agenda is put out there? In other words, they're in control of disclosure, period. So really appreciate you calling. That is great, a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Andy.
Okay, I'll let you guys go. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
All right, caller, your first name and where are you calling from?
My name's Denny. I'm calling from Indiana.
I'm sorry, what was your first name?
My name's Denny. I'm calling from Indiana.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to the show. You have a question for Chase?
Yes. And Martin, I just wanted to say your show's so underrated. You have a great approach to the subject. I'm new to it, and it's hard to sort out some of the credible information that's out there. I just wanted to say that to you.
Hey, thanks very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Mine's just like a two-part tour. The first question is, how do we know that some other country, maybe even 100, 200 years ago, didn't get a jump on us somehow, some way, and these are theirs, and they're going about every day with fixed-wing aircraft and just as normal as anybody else is, and these are theirs? And the second thing is, I've been trying to, Lou brought this up, the burning fuse theory. What's your opinion about that? Like a glitch, like how a fuse burns uneven. For instance, say that in 1749, there's some little kid in the field. He sees something go across the sky, and he doesn't know what it is. It could be a pilot from 1993 in a stealth bomber. The pilot's unaware of the little kid. And it's just right where past, present, and the future, that point right there where these are just like little glitches. And those were the two things that I wanted to know your opinion on.
Interesting.
I love the fuse theory, and of course that is how quick that little light is on a fuse. So when you light it, you see where it's gone in the past, but that little tiny spark compared to this big past and future is really a reality is so quick. So the way Lou explains it is fascinating. Yeah, I definitely believe that time travel, it's something that we've been looking into. We have evidence, from the Nazis, World War II, and most likely even back in the ancient days when even mummification came from trying to transverse, into the future as well. So it's interesting. It just makes sense. If this is going to be dimensional, if this is going to be something that physics that we don't understand, and I really think we have to pay attention to that, then us from the future or glimpses from the future is absolutely possible. So that was a great question. And I am so sorry, Denny, I can't remember the first question.
The first one was basically, and I can kind of address that one, or I think I can anyway, is
Thank you.
The possibility of another country having this technology and using it for many years. Isn't that it? Isn't that the question, Denny?
Yeah. Like, let's just say that maybe they weren't able to make something that looks like a Tic Tac 200 years ago, but they got a jump on everybody else, and they're just going about their normal activities with fixed wing aircraft, and that they're no more advanced than us, and these are theirs. China or Russia, and they're playing the UFO thing, and these are theirs, and they're just going out about like they don't have this type of technology. Or do we know this stuff's coming from space? I mean, how do we know it's not China or Russia for sure?
Well, I'll address that, and you can throw in your 2 cents, Chase, if you want to after. I basically just think that if they had that type of technology, it would be used against us during some type of conflict, because we'd have absolutely no defense. If someone had, the technology that people are seeing, they could basically take over the world in a way, in my opinion. Maybe I'm going a little too far with it. But I also think that I don't believe if another country had that type of technology that we wouldn't be aggressively trying to, or our government wouldn't be aggressively trying to crack that and figure it out through spies or whatever. I just think it would be kind of impossible to hold that part secret. What do you think about that, Chase?
I agree, especially because world leaders or humans have a tendency to want to pee on their bushes, right? They want everyone to know, I own this is mine, look at us, and we're big dogs in the playground. And so that's one of the factors. And I do agree with your listener. You are one of the better shows out there. Martin, you're my favorite host. I've told you that from day one. You were the first professional interview and great questions that I was ever given. Wow. I just loved it. I felt so good leaving your show because you didn't, treat me like the cheerleader, with all the silly questions. You hit hard, and I love that. And to this day, you are my favorite radio show. So I agree with your listener on that as well.
Thank you so
I've
much.
been saying that for years, right?
Yeah. Thank you. That's very nice of you. And what a nice New Year's gift.
Thank you both for taking my calls.
All right, Danny.
Thanks
a lot.
Danny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. We have a caller trying to get in. I'm not sure what's happening, why it's not working. I can just tell you try again. And if you're trying to call Skype, perhaps maybe that's doing it. Just try to call through a regular phone, that number that's up on the screen. So we're in the second hour, 15 minutes or so in, and we wanted to discuss, when you're talking about the future of 2019, were you talking mostly about the think tank, or were there other things, directions you think we should go to?
I think there's so much possibility that was opened up with ATIP coming out. To the Stars Academy is awesome. They got bank, so they could do a lot. But it was really Lou and ATIP that blew the lid right off. So I believe now that's given us a chance to go in and talk to our lawmakers. We need help with some of these documents being declassified, but we need to brief them, because this phenomena isn't going to stay hidden for long. There is going to be, whether it's sizzle or steak, things are going to happen this year. They just have to. We all feel it mounting. We see it mounting. Everybody's kind of giving us little tidbits and little bites and a couple sips of milk here and there, and we're waiting for that. Lou Elizondo actually came out and said that in spring of 2019, we're going to be having a completely different discussion in ufology. You heard that at the symposium. Yeah. And, what that means is, don't know. Is this steak or is it sizzle? I don't know, but we have to be ready for both, because even a sizzle is enough for us sometimes to keep us going for another 3 years. Or much like ATIP did, it changes our direction. And again, we have to be careful about discrediting without proof. This man is a veteran who gave so much for the safety and security and freedoms of this country. To discredit somebody of that caliber and that honesty because you don't like intelligence groups, well, unfortunately, those intelligence agencies really do a lot of service of keeping us safe and not living like Paris right now. So I think we have to be careful about discrediting good people. And, Lou is a veteran, and he's an honorable veteran. His DD-214 and his awards he can't even talk about some of them. But trust me when I tell you, this is a 4-0 military member that honorably served and went into this ATIP program as a contractor. See, this is not an active duty program. This is civilian. ATIP is civilian. And when he wasn't getting the cooperation or the attention, when he's showing the evidence that they have to the people above, they're still kind of seeing UFOs. He knew he had to break out of that little tiny group and just start impacting the public, because the public is going to change the mind of the lawmakers. I live in DC. You were just here this summer, Martin. I can tell you one thing. This place is a swamp, 150%. I've never seen so many self-serving people in my whole life. Their careers, their money, their paycheck. And it's disgusting. And to have somebody like Lou quit his job to come out because he knew this swamp was never going to give this topic the credit it deserved. Why are we not applauding him for that alone? The man quit his job to make a point, wrote a letter to Mattis, Mad Dog, and explained this topic is not getting the support it deserves and the attention for national security. And then we want to pick on him out here and call him a disinformation agent. Again, I ask, where's your proof? Tell me what disinformation he has put out here. Tell me what he's lied to us, because they're not talking to us. And that's the first thing people have to realize. They don't care what ufologists are thinking right now. They don't need us. They have made that message perfectly clear. Yeah. And I heard Grant Cameron say a few months ago, they fired ufologists. Do you blame them? When 90% of everything you hear out of our mouth is rhetoric, hearsay, it's ridiculous. I think it's time that we embrace our professionals that have been involved one way or another or have access to, and that's the government. Are we going to get played? Probably a couple of times, but is everybody going to do that? I don't think so. We weren't born yesterday. We've been learning along the way as well.
Right. When I was talking to Lou in the corridor in Cherry Hill, a regular guy, and we get, because I'm in the fine arts and antiques and all that, he was showing me pictures on his phone of things that he's collecting. And, we had a great conversation. And, I said to him, you really, if I invited you on the show, you probably couldn't come on a regular UFO show, could you? And he said, Well, he said, well, I would, but you'd have to talk to, not as publicist, maybe it is a publicist for TTSA or whatever it is, but it'd have to be cleared with them. I didn't even try, because I understand that it's just a no-go. And, I never really thought about it that much until you just brought this up during the show that, they don't need us as much as we want to be needed. They
have the money.
Yeah.
They could go get their own evidence.
And not only that, they may be able to get some answers, but the fact is that they're trying to get the information to the public. And that's kind of what our goal has been, really, is to get, information out there and, the so-called disclosure, as you say. That
word.
Yeah.
That's a horrible noise I make, but I don't. Yeah, the word disclosure. It's just. But things are going to be breaking open, and I love the fact that I saw Martin at the citizens' hearing for disclosure a few years back.
Right. Yeah.
These former Congress and senators. First of all, Steve Bassett took a lot of heat because they weren't. They were former. Well. Congresswoman Kirkpatrick, people are crazy if they didn't think that woman could pick up the phone to Obama and he would pick up for her, and probably not half of the active or serving members of the House and Senate now. They don't know how DC works if they looked at these guys as impotent in any way. But I saw on Monday these very professional people sit on a panel in front of everybody, and they were polite. They were very polite. They paid attention, and very proud moment when I watched friends like Richard and Linda raise their right hand and swear in. I mean, it was all absolutely according to all the rules if this was done at the Capitol or, Senate room. And by Wednesday, these same former lawmakers were pointing fingers and saying, we need to open those files. We need more information. I walked away from that hearing knowing one thing, and that is with the right education, the right commentary, I watched them understand that this is a real phenomena and they want answers too. And if we can do that, if those people, those witnesses could convince 6 of them, we need to be talking to the people that are actually in charge of threat assessment and intelligence committee, the Council of National Security. Why are we not at the UN? Watching what just happened, it's not only possible, it's going to happen. It has to happen. And I really believe, Martin, that ATIP coming out, Lou coming out, what he's done to the stars is a group that's entertainment and science. But let's not forget ATIP and Lou. What he's done for ufology, brilliant. And I'm also going to throw Bigelow in there. This man has put more money into ufology than anyone else I know, other than maybe Yuri, in Russia. But he's never stopped. He's interviewed professional aerospace company CEO, and he's asked the question about aliens on 60 Minutes. And he doesn't waver, and he stood firm, and he said what he said. How do we not respect somebody that tells the truth, even when it could hurt him? And
he
I
said he
realized
didn't give a damn.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't need the ufologist to continue his belief or to collect evidence. So if we as ufologists just kind of take a lead, maybe get back to our roots of critical thinking, get back to our roots of nuts and bolts and real investigation, calling sources, working the phones, offering the public probative information. Go back to the Cash Landrum UFO incident. That would pass a court of law. John Schuessler was amazing getting that information. Look at some of these files of the people in our past. McDonald, Kehoe, oh my gosh. We have to get back to those roots and stop spending so much time on Facebook arguing and proclamating. when people come at me and say, well, I don't believe this. Well, why? Where's your proof? You think it's this. I have all my stuff on the table. I have my labs. I have my work, all my notes. Where's your stuff? Yeah. I have no time on Facebook. You could go on and I think it tells you last time I've been on was probably 3 weeks ago. I have no time for this anymore. I have no time for gossip and the bull crap and the the disruption. I believe that's also purposeful, and it's put in here for a lot of reasons. And then it's fed. I call it feeding the monsters. You know who the big mouths are. You know who the big dogs are that aren't afraid to bite, and you keep feeding them, and you keep feeding them, and you keep feeding them because they keep this. And the more they keep ratcheting up, the more distraction on the real truth, especially when they're going after people that have a history and are known to tell the truth or to be out there giving real information. I debunked the Starchild skull. That was a big deal. I mean, there's tens of thousands of people that knew that was an alien. And the truth is, science doesn't care what we believe. Sorry, guys, it's human. Here's the proof. And we put so much out there and control that in a way. You knew everything. You knew what labs are, the DNA labs we used. You knew who did it. The man who did the testing is on the record, so you can call and vet him. So, when you have people out here that are telling the truth, no matter where it leads, even if it's human and not alien, these aren't headline seekers. There's many out here. Those are people I want to talk to these days. I don't do a lot of radio shows. I've actually turned a couple down this year, already. And I'm only going to be doing the ones where they have professional people behind that truly understand the phenomena and want to get real information out to the public. None of this silliness or bravado or look at me tactics.
And why you were talking a minute ago about social media and Facebook, and why do you think that is such a breeding ground for argumentative and proclamations? I rarely, very, very rarely get into a UFO subject there, but I did just a little blurb the other day, and wow, I couldn't believe the hammering.
Right.
And it's just basically opinions. And do you think that for the new person, someone that, I think there are a lot of new people actually listening and to this show and other shows, and because they're fascinated, and a lot of that does have to do with the Pentagon, article that came out a year ago. And by the way, it's been over that. You were on in November of last year, 2017. So this all happened since this article came out since you were on then. But there are new people coming in. Do you think that social media just kind of forces them out and away from the topic if they start looking into the subject that way?
I do. Who wants to enter a cesspool? It really is. I mean, who wants to get involved in that and all of a sudden have your name targeted so that, everybody's on your page throwing the shade, right? It's, who wants to do that? I can tell you that a lot of people don't anymore. They'll keep it very quiet, but they are coming to MUFON, and they are coming to shows like yours, and they are listening to Open Minds and reading articles Elizondo puts out. I mean, they are finding the places, but it's not going to be on the social media. I don't even see, where's the information? Where's the good, hey guys, did you see this? You put that up and 10 minutes later, it's like this whole thing on the latest one, the Mexican, the alleged crash right over the border, and El Paso, a bunch of people run over and they're pulling this stuff and they get it to the United States. Oh my gosh, look at that thread. It's
that's on there now. This is the small plane collision, supposedly, and the Army shows up.
Yes.
I tell you a story about that. I had Bill Burns on, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and we were talking about that case, and someone...
Oh, no, this was just a couple days ago.
Oh, I know, but I got to tell you
crash,
this.
yeah.
This. So I had someone say that they were actually there. They were in, and wanted to get interviewed, and Bill was all excited about it. We got all the information. I started doing research on the guy, and I found out he would have been 8 years old. So
Yeah.
So another, there you have to watch for that. So this thread just came out recently.
Yeah, and it's breaking on Facebook, and of course, MUFON ends up getting a report on it. So, we have great investigators down in El Paso that actually have nice links in Mexico. So, we're working the case, but, it's 10 minutes old. People don't even know the facts, and they're already hammering and cheering and, whatever the reaction was, there are no facts. And already the thread's, going crazy and good and bad. And I don't know, maybe I'm old school. I just don't want to do that. I respect people that go to a source. It was like the Malibu underwater base.
Right. Yeah.
That report I did, it completely, it's a thrust fault, but it surprised me. No one called Google. What? No one called them and said, hey, how does this structure look so amazing, like a man-made structure, appear? And for the depth it is, why are we not seeing every other downed aircraft or, sunken boat and treasure ship, out there? Why does this stand out as such an anomaly? Come on, guys, did you fake it? Like, what are you doing? And in my report, I name exactly who I talked to and why I called Google and exactly how they do it. And the computer actually fills in the gaps.
That's right. On the moon, too. There was
Yes.
a triangle on the moon that was the same thing. Yeah.
And when you find out how they do it, but it surprises me as much hoopla over this underwater anomaly we've seen on the internet that nobody called Google.
Yeah.
The author of the photograph, which is not a photograph, but it's just like we forgot how to investigate is my point. And books were written on it, and big conspiracy television shows.
There was someone very invested in it. That was
yes,
yeah, I remember that.
And then you learn that some people needed it to stay an underwater alien base.
That's right.
Because that's bank.
Yeah, that's right. That's really sad, too. So Poppin Caps C in the message room asks, why should we rely on MUFON? Shouldn't we learn to discern?
Absolutely. And discern everything. This is being smart. Very correct. What was his name again?
Poppin Caps C.
Excellent question. And it's a good habit. Everybody in MUFON's not perfect either, as everyone knows. We have some self-inflicted wounds, and we have a lot of accusations we don't deserve. But in the end, I believe nothing of what I hear and only half of what I see. And that's a good way to start. You walk in and you let the evidence take you where you need to be. It's kind of how I keep my objectivity.
Well, there's someone I've watched him post a ton of times here in the chat room, and very negatively on, and don't trust anyone that promotes To the Stars Academy scam. Going on and on about that. And everyone can have their own opinion, of course, on,
Sure.
but for someone to say, do not trust Chase, that upsets me. Tom, so you can go away if you'd like. But
I haven't endorsed To the Stars Academy, so if that's my accusation from the guy in the chat room, he's not listening. Again, this guy's part of the problem because I never endorsed him. I endorsed ATIP and Lou Elizondo coming out and telling us that Pentagon. I have never endorsed. I call them an entertainment and science organization, period. I don't endorse or I don't slam. I don't really have an opinion. I don't know enough about To the Stars Academy.
Yeah.
But I do know about ATIP.
That is a problem because a lot of people do not have. A lot of people don't have the information and make an opinion before they even have the information, and I think that's what's going on here.
What do we look for with our whistleblowers? Credible witnesses. Lou is. He hasn't lied about his background, not one iota. I have verified that. And so has many other people, by the way. I'm not the only one. And what's he saying? What has he said that has been untrue so far? So until I have a reason to distrust or call this man a liar with his background, if I don't have that proof, I'm not going there. And again, this is the problem with people that just want to come on and throw shade. This is, they know better. Why? Give me your proof. If I'm not supposed to trust this, or anything I've said turn out to be untrue, knock yourselves out, guys. Don't follow me. I have no problem with this, because I'll tell you what, we have our head down, and my head is going to be so down in 2019 because I don't want to miss the important facts. I don't want to miss any of our opportunities because I'm too busy hating and pointing fingers at people when three are looking back at me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the conversations I mentioned the other day, I was talking with Scott Ramsey on the phone for quite a while. And, one of the things that comes up a lot of my shows, where people will email me about it, why do you only talk about old cases? And that was a subject that he and I were speaking about. And a lot of the reason is because the material becomes non-classified after a while, and you can get more information, and which I think is important. And a lot of things are unfolding. And, I personally told him I was a total skeptic of the Aztec crash. And he said he was too, 100%. And then he kept digging into it and finding more information that was being declassified, and going, he was actually discouraged that he found out, well, this is actually turning into something.
What is the average year that government documents or things like this are declassified?
It's something like 50 years, isn't it?
And what are we coming up on?
Yeah.
50 years of some of the biggest stuff. So he's absolutely right. We're going to have more and more answers if we're paying attention to the documents that are being declassified. I'm afraid we're going to lose our Stanton Freemans. I'm afraid we're going to lose the people that, broke open some of these big cases, and, they put boots to the ground and did interviews and wrote notes and face-to-face with witnesses. And I'm afraid we're going to lose these people to the rhetoric on the social media and just, some of these open forums. It's easy to throw barbs when you can have a name like Tootsie Butt or, whatever. And it's easy to throw shade. You're completely anonymous in the back, but stand up and debate a Richard Dolan or one of our greats in ufology, and come at them with your admissible facts and your debate points and even common sense. Come at us and let's have a conversation. But, unfortunately, a lot of people are just stepping back and, doing their thing internally. And we're going to end up with these little think tanks and little groups that, people are now going to accuse of, we're all hiding our stuff or even coming together, much like an ATIP or to the Stars Academy. Little pockets of information, because who wants to stand out there and even put up with that? I don't.
Right. We have a caller. Caller, your first name, where are you calling from?
My name is Andreas. I'm calling from Stockholm, Sweden.
Oh, hey, welcome to the show. What time is it there?
Yeah, thank you. Oh, it's about 6 o'clock p.m.
Ah, all right. Well, thanks so much for calling in. You have a question for our guest?
Yeah, I didn't watch the show from the start, so my question was about this Starchild skull. What's happened after the investigation?
Oh, I believe she did speak on that. So you did miss that part of it, but well, go ahead in a nutshell if you want to, Chase, and talk about that.
We did a lot of. Hi, Andreas, and thanks so much for calling, especially, Sweden. We knew we had a big audience internationally, but that's so awesome. Thank you. The Starchild skull was was a difficult investigation to get into because Lloyd Pye was so loved, and of course the Starchild. People desperately wanted this to be alien or hybrid, and unfortunately, science doesn't care what we believe or what we want. I really wanted an alien. Who doesn't? But unfortunately, all of the DNA testing that I did, and Melanie Young and Carrie McClure, it was a team of three of us. The three of us, it all matched exactly what Lloyd's DNA testing was finding, is that was the maternal DNA was absolutely human. We did get the paternal or the nuclear DNA. And unfortunately, that was always the anticipation that, yes, that's going to be the unidentified part. And it wasn't. It's completely human. And we found some of the genetic markers for the disease, for the shape of the head. And we even found the haplogroup of the little Starchild. Since this investigation, Melanie Young, the owner, has repatriated the Starchild skull, the original little guy, back to his people in Mexico.
Oh, that's nice. That's good.
Yes. That's a really big deal. This little guy, even before Lloyd had him, had been lacquered, put on a plaque, hung on a wall, has ball caps put on him for pictures, cigarettes hanging out of his mouth. I mean, my heart is happy that he is now back where he belongs with his people.
Yeah. Excellent. Did you have any, Andreas, do you have any other questions?
Well, that was the top question in my head, and I'm very grateful for that answer. Thank you, Chase. And you have a very good show. So
thank you.
Keep it up, and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Andreas, and thanks so much.
Okay.
Stay tuned. He's got an awesome show. Stay tuned every week.
Yeah, great. Bye.
So we have like I don't know, maybe five. We could go 10 more minutes or so, and I think there's been some good callers, and the line.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, I just took the number down, so we wouldn't take any other calls. But I could take another call if someone would like to. If someone would like to call in, I'll pop that number back up over there again. If anyone would like to give a ring. So I think we've covered a lot of really good ground, and I'm really interested if you'd want to come back again.
Of course.
Within a year, and we'll talk about what your think tank came up with. I mean, it's really amazing. I mean, I watched a film back in I think it was sometime in the 50s. It was just a clip on YouTube where there was this guy saying, I hope I find out the answer in my lifetime. And he looked like he was about in his 60s, 1950.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way a lot of people have a feeling. This is, I got to tell you, since this last year is the first time that I've felt like there is a possibility that we may know something. The
last time we had a chance like this was the era where Lee Spiegel, and people forget, he spoke at the UN.
That's right.
He had the ear. They had a panel. And, he was with a couple others, but
1979 or something?
Yes. We need to get back to that type of ufology, that type of research and determination. And this stuff's not for the faint of heart. It's not. This isn't X-Files where, we're getting cool car chases and, all the excitement and breaking into top secret security bases. This is about sitting in dirty little basements at the National Archives and going through boxes, looking for anything, little piece of paper, a little mark that would indicate, ooh, there's something here and this paper didn't belong here. There's a lot of, sitting back and just, a lot of legwork and consideration, what's admissible or not. But that's my goal. This year, I don't care about lights in the sky. I know that sounds terrible, but we have tens of thousands of these reports.
Yeah.
We want the evidence.
Yeah.
That's our job. The public has heard enough opinion. They've heard enough proclamation. They have heard what we believe. They have heard everything. What they need to hear is fact, evidential fact, and that's it.
Yeah. I had the great fortune. I had David O'Leary from he's the creator of Project Blue Book on the History Channel. What I did is the History Channel actually contacts me a number of times and asks me, for different people for different situations, things like that. And so I contacted them and said, hey, you have Project Blue Book. I'd like to be able to interview someone. And they got me in touch with David O'Leary. Great guy, really nice guy. I interviewed him a few weeks ago. And so then the other day, I got this little email that said, screeners available to me, because I featured him on the show. So I got to watch the first 6 episodes of Project Blue Book.
Oh my gosh, was that amazing? And I also heard Richard Dolan. They have him now coming in and weighing in after every single episode.
Oh yeah, they're going to have like a separate show where they'll have, someone talk about the cases in reality. Basically, they have their fiction but it based on reality. And some of it, and I talked to David yesterday, just briefly. I said I love the show, love it, and I think everybody that's into the topic is really going to love it too. It does embellish a little bit heavy here and there, but that's where they're going to kind of counterbalance by having someone like Dolan come in and talk about the real, and Jacques Vallée. I know that he's been in touch with him.
Yes, Jacques Vallée. Yes,
yeah. So,
it's amazing that they've been that diligent as well. They really want this, even though they took some liberties with the dramatization, they really want to tell the truth as well. They want this to become, fantastic but also truthful. I just really love the integrity behind this show too.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell the listener out there, you're going to love the show. I love the show. I really got into it. You get really attached to the characters right away. And they have some great actors. And so the whole ball of wax it's just like I've watched the 6 episodes and I can't wait for the next one.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. And that starts at January 8th for all the listeners out there. I think we're going to call it a day, Chase. Now you have a website, just your name basically, and it's not an easy name to say or spell.
I know it's not. The first name is Chase, and that's normal, CHASE, and the last name is KLOETZKE, and it's just chasekloetzke.com. And I wish I was more visible on social media. I tell everybody, tap me there. I love hearing from everyone, but I'm just too busy for the rhetoric. So email me or contact me through the website. That's the easiest way to get me now.
Yeah. All right, Chase. Hey, well, thanks so much. It's been as always. You're just wonderful to talk to. I've always had a great time, and it's always fun to see you at different events as well. And you take care and have a wonderful 2019, and we'll have you back, and you can tell us what happened with this think tank. I can't wait to talk to you about it.
So awesome. Thanks, Martin. As always,
All right.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone. So that is it for the show. And thanks so much for watching and listening. And we'll be back next week. And I'm trying to get Robert Powell on the show. I don't have a confirmation, so that may or may not be. We'll see who we will be back with, and that will be on January 8th on Tuesday. I believe it's January 8th. And again, I want to thank everyone so much for listening to listening to this show, and also for the people that help us out. It really means a lot to me, and I really appreciate it. And so we'll be back next year. All right? Keep your eyes to the sky.
And it hits me, oh my gosh, this is that triangle.
There's explanation for everything that occurred in the Rendlesham Forest incident that doesn't involve aliens at all.
It was completely silent. It comes right over our heads.
He saw a classic flying saucer really standing in the clearing.
He turned over to my father and held his hand, and he looked in his eyes and he said, "We're not alone."